what's interesting about Joker, especially, is you look at that draft, and he was a part of the 2014 draft. A lot of great players that came from that draft, but he was drafted with the 43rd overall pick. He was drafted during a Taco Bell commercial. And, you have the likes of players like Andrew Wiggins, who was first overall. He ended up being packaged for the Kevin Love deal, ended up going to Minnesota. We had players like Jabari Parker, who never panned out, which was heartbreaking for me at the time. Joel Embiid and what he did. He was somebody who was definitely a project. He ended up panning out, obviously, for Philly eventually. But then we look at players like Dante Exum. Why did he, and where is Dante Exum now?
Yeah. Yeah, Dante Exum, no one knows where he is. Last time I heard he went, I think Utah traded him, but I think he's in Houston at this point. I'm not exactly sure where Dante Exum
played
is
for a million teams,
but he's played for a million teams at this point. Aaron Gordon was drafted ahead of him. He's on his team right now, and Aaron Gordon was supposed to be like the next Blake Griffin here, but like Andrew Wiggins, everyone thought he was going to be the next Kobe. I remember talking to the guy when I was like, it was 2014, so I was like 13 in the barbershop when they were talking about it, and he's like, yeah, Andrew Wiggins, dude, that guy's going to be like LeBron in like 2-3 years once he gets some muscle stacked on. Well, he never added any muscle. I know he was skinny when he came into the league, but he never had that really big beef up. And then after that, Jabari Parker at number 2.
Massive
he
bust.
was signed with Boston when Danny Ainge was collecting the infinity stone of juicy asses in the NBA. You had Grant Williams on that team. You signed Jabari Parker on that team. You had Al Horford. You had players like Robert Williams. You had the Marcus Smarts of the world. You had Semi Ojeleye. Talk about a Kardashian himself. It's like, that's just when Danny Ainge was like, I want to make the other team uncomfortable because we have all this cake on our team and that's the best defense. But it's like he went to Boston, then the D League, not really hearing anything. Joel Embiid is another player, but you can't even argue that Embiid's better than him in the draft right now. And the fact that he was taken during a Taco Bell commercial and not even one with Pete Davidson in, or LeBron James Taco Tuesday, is frankly embarrassing. And then you were debating whether you want to keep Yusuf Nurkic or Nikola Jokic, which could have been one of the all-time worst moves of all time. And that was a 50-50 chance when you look at the kind of split NBA multiverse. Like,
that's like Monte Ellis and Steph Curry right there.
Yeah.
Seriously. And luckily they made the right decision, just like Golden State did, but absolutely insane what we saw. Some other notable players, we have Marcus Smart, who
he's fine.
Defensive player of the year at one point. Obviously a very solid player for the Celtics for a long time. Now he's in Memphis.
His efficiency wasn't. You were looking at that earlier.
Yeah, never a very efficient player. Still taking more threes than he should, which is why Boston is happy with, Drew Holiday. But Julius Randle,
friend of the show. Yeah.
Friend of the show, Julius Randle, friend of bricking shots in the postseason. One of the worst playoff shooters of all time.
No way. Nick Stauskas.
Nick Stauskas. Interesting. I have no idea where this man is now.
Yeah, I don't think anyone does. I just remember him in the tournament being really good for Michigan. But yeah, Nick Stauskas, it was one of those players when you're younger and don't know much about the NBA. You're like, yeah, that player is going to be really good.
I remember Jabari Parker was that guy where I'm like, this guy, there's about a couple players in NBA history in the draft where I was so confident in, and I was so wrong. Jabari Parker's right up there with Hasheem Thabeet for me, Hasheem Thabeet was the first draft where I was like, yes, Hasheem Thabeet. I just watched the UConn tournament. He's going to be so good. And he averaged 2 points in the NBA.
Yeah, him. And then we were fans of UConn too. So like Shabazz Napier was
yes. I remember when Shabazz Napier was going to recruit LeBron back to Miami. Didn't work out. And then Jabari Parker, I remember watching him in high school. And I was like, okay, this guy is going to be an absolute bucket. And it did not pan out for him at all.
Yeah, then we had Noah Vonleh and Alfred Payton also taken in the top 10. Wow. Maybe one of the worst top 10s of any NBA draft I can remember going through this.
Yeah, really, it's just Joel Embiid. Obviously, he's been an MVP and a perennial all-pro player. But
the Nuggets took, with the 11th overall pick, the same year they took Jokic, introducing the new player for the Nuggets, Doug McDermott, who they ended up shipping off to Chicago. That was the pick. That was the first-round player that was taken over Jokic by the Denver Nuggets.
It's amazing. This is why I love hindsight. Shit like this Doug McDermott, who's played for a million teams. Dario Saric.
For the Magic. So you took, with your first 2 picks of the NBA draft, the Orlando Magic take Elfrid Payton and Dario Saric.
Which is why the Magic have been the Magic for the last decade. Who now plays, I believe, for the Suns, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Zach LaVine.
Zach LaVine. Okay. He's good at dunking. He's in Chicago right now.
Rotting.
He's an okay player, but
Solid.
Free Zach LaVine. Go to Philly or somewhere where you can be happy.
Yeah, free him. Maybe Phoenix if they find some cap space.
TJ Warren.
Speaking of the Suns, TJ Warren, friend of the show. And that's kind of the gist. That's the first lottery picks now. I think he's on the Suns now, TJ Warren.
Yeah, TJ Warren was like bouncing between the Suns and the Nets. He's on like veterans minimum deals right now. So most of these players now are either out of the league or a role player. There's none of these top 14 players that ended up being a star. Elfrid Payton's probably a mumble rapper at this point, if I had to guess. Dario Saric is a fine player, and the Magic were probably trying to replace the great Rashard Lewis when they took him.
Or try to find a new Hedo Turkoglu.
Yeah, or trying to find a new Hedo Turkoglu. That would be someone you want to replace there. But yeah, overall, pretty pathetic draft. The only real star in that top 10 is Embiid, and Embiid can't stay healthy or get past the second round right now. So there are no Jason Tatums in this draft. There's no like even Anthony Edwards. There's no Luka. There's Jokic taken during a Taco Bell commercial. And this is why the NBA, when it comes to drafts,